Well, hi, everybody. Welcome again to the Cleveland Public Library Sports Research Department. Our guest today is Rich Rollins, former outstanding baseball player, mostly with the Minnesota Twins. Today's date is September 11th, 2017. Rich is now 79 years old, as am I might add.
You got it right on the nose, Danny.
Of course, I remember Rich playing with the many great seasons with the Minnesota Twins from 1961 to 70 was his major league career. And then at the end of your career, you wound up with the Indians for about a season and with Seattle Pilots, wasn't it?
Pilots, exactly.
Yes, the Seattle Pilots
Yeah.
for and anybody else at the end of your career?
Well,
Seattle
a little bit
Cleveland?
with Milwaukee.
Oh, and I forgot. I'm
That
sorry,
team-
I forgot about
Milwaukee.
the great Milwaukee Brewers
Right.
back then.
The Brewers.
Oh.
But that was it,
But anyway, you came out of Parma High School in 1956,
correct?
and I knew a lot of the guys that you went to high school with. Also, then Kent State, 1960, and then you signed. When did you sign? In 1960 or when 59 earlier?
Yeah, well, they wanted me to go to their lowest team that they had.
The Twins?
Yeah, and there was a tryout in Washington D.C.
Oh.
They had 50 guys at this tryout from all over the country. Just about when this happened, before I even signed with anybody, and I remember the 3 days there, and I was the last guy that was chosen to come into their office, and they called me in, and all the brass is there.
Yes.
And he said, we want to send you to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, which was their lowest team of any of them. At the time, I was like 22 years old. And I told him, I'm not gonna go. And they said, well, that's where we're going to send you. And I still can't believe that I did. But I said, well, I don't know what's going to happen now, but just give me my flight home.
Really?
I'm going home.
Wow.
And I still, to this day, Danny, I still don't believe I did that. Because I already had a teaching job in Parma. I was all set. I was looking forward to the teaching job.
Really?
And when I got home, I remember it was like about 1 o'clock in the afternoon after the flight came in. And I went to the front side door. My mother answered the door and said, you need to call Mr. Haynes right away. And Mr. Haynes was Calvin Griffith's son-in-law.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And he said
Calvin Griffith, by the way, was the owner of the Twins.
Of the Twins. And so I called him and said, this was about 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon. I'll never forget this day. Anyways, so, you know, I make the phone call, and they said, we're going to give you what you wanted. We're going to send you to Wilson, North Carolina, which was b-ball.
Oh.
That was really up there with a bunch of old-timers still playing. And I said, wow. And we have a ticket for you at the airport at 5 o'clock.
Wow. You came in and turned right around and got back on a
That's
plane.
exactly the way it happened.
Really?
And I'll never forget going to I never really had traveled that much. And I got to the airport in Wilson. Well, Wilson was where I was, not Wilson, but where I was going. And that's how the whole thing happened.
Wow.
Oh.
So, now, back in those days, you had to do your military service, too, before you could really get started on a career.
Exactly.
Back then, you got into a reserve unit up here, right? For 6 months?
When I was in playing ball, I got in the reserve unit in Wilson, North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I ended up at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was a 6-month deal. So that's what happened.
But then you had meetings every week for 5.5 years after that.
Correct.
Did you really go to those meetings?
The meetings?
Once a week, yes.
Meeting?
Yeah.
Meeting what, Danny?
Didn't you have the reserve meetings once a month?
Yeah.
One night a month?
Yeah, that was for...
Or was it once a week? But you had meetings.
I was at home. This was
Yeah.
during the off season, and I used to travel. I lived at home, but I used to travel to Columbus, Ohio, every day. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and fulfill my duty down there, and I
Really?
come back home every day.
Wow.
I get home probably about 8 o'clock each night, and this went on for quite a while.
Wow.
Long time, yeah. But I was glad to get out of the service.
What? Yes. So the game has changed so much since you played. First of all, could you live on what you made as a young player?
The most money I made in 1 year, and that's close to 10 years, was $23,000.
Really?
Yeah.
You played in.
And you had to know Calvin Griffith.
See, he came from Washington, D.C. He had moved the Twins. They were the Washington Senators.
Correct.
And he moved them to Minneapolis. But now, when did he make that move? 59 or 60?
60 before. When I was there, I came there in 61. So it's 60. I was at Wilson. It was at 61, 1961.
61 was his first year in Minneapolis?
I believe so.
Wow, and you were part of that first year.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the way it was.
Were you guys treated like heroes in Minneapolis when they finally had Major League Baseball?
Oh yeah, to all the people around, we were awesome until we got in with Calvin in his office.
Oh,
and then that's when we heard it all. And he was something as far as contracts were concerned.
Oh,
I remember one time I said to him, I said, well, I need to have this much money. Okay. And we had I think, three kids at the time. And he says, well, you better look for yourself for a job because you're not going to get it here.
Wow.
The money. That's what Calvin was like.
Gee.
Yeah, the most I ever made in one year, in all the years I was up there, was $23,000.
Wow.
Yeah. But 23,000 was.
Well, it was
That's
pretty
50
good
years
back then.
ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Now, in the course of your career up there, you played in one World Series. How many All-Star games did you play in?
The one, I think it was the first year. I think it was the first year I played, Danny. Yeah. Yeah.
And was that the year you hit just over 300? You had a
Exactly. Yeah.
You had a heck of a
At that
year.
time, yeah, well, the story behind that one was, I was, last game of the year, we were playing Baltimore. And I was right at the edge. I needed one hit, 1 out of 4, to get to 300 that year. And I remember all the guys, including Brooks Robinson. We were playing against Baltimore
Yes.
that day, and I still remember this day.
Wow.
He'd come up to me before the game during batting practice and everything. And he says, Rich, the whole team knew I needed one hit.
Really?
And Brooks said to me, he knew I could bunt really well. And he says, I want you to lay a bunt down on me. I want you to get to this 300 mark.
Really?
And it staggered me.
Really?
I mean, it just staggered me.
Wow.
And I ended up not doing it.
Really? Not
Because
bunting, you
I
mean?
thought to myself many, many times, I got to live with this my whole life.
Wow.
And I don't think I could do it.
Really?
So I didn't lay the bunt.
You did not take the gift.
Every time we played Baltimore, this was in 61,
Yes.
Brooks would come up to me, Rich, you should have laid the bunt down. I got to be really good friends with Brooks Robinson.
Did you?
Yeah, he was a class guy. And he always remembered it. He should have laid the bunt down, Rich, every time we played him. And so that's how that thing happened.
But you did wind up hitting 300, I believe.
No,
No, you didn't?
no. I was like 298, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah. But the one hit would have got me over
Yes.
over 300.
Yes.
But I said, I got to live with this my whole life. And I don't want that.
Gee.
I wanted to get it like legitimately, not somebody giving me the hit. I don't want somebody to give me the hit. So that's how that thing worked.
Well, hardly anybody bunts anymore. You know, we talked about how the game has changed since you broke in half a century ago. Okay, among the things that you mentioned, bunting. Nobody really, hardly anybody bunts for a hit anymore. Oh, now and then, but not like in the old days. You had to be on your toes. Somebody might lay down a bunt on you at any time.
You know, I often think about this, Danny. You're so right. Watching these games now, which is 50 years later, okay, that why I think I saw one player try to lay down a bunt. Of all the games that I've been watching this year, and I watched all of them, laying a bunt down. But you need to know what happens to the third baseman. If a third baseman, which I played for 8-10 years, no third baseman wants a bunt laid down on him. And so what happens is you tend to cheat when somebody gets to the plate and you know they can bunt. Okay, I'm gonna move in 3-4 steps, 5 steps, or whatever.
Well, back in those days, there were only 10 teams in the league.
Yeah,
you knew every player you were
exactly.
playing against because you played them all the time.
Right. That's why it amazes me now that somebody just doesn't try to lay a bunt down occasionally, because it sticks into a third baseman's head.
Really?
Watch this guy bunts. He'll bunt. And no third baseman wants to bunt against him. So I just don't understand it.
Well, now there are residual advantages too. If they're playing a little closer, you might hit one through the hole on them.
Exactly.
That's the whole. One through.
That's the whole theory.
Really?
Yeah, to get it by him. Yeah, that's amazing to me. That and the other thing that amazes me is I saw one player. I watch this when I'm watching a ball game all the time, and I watch them all. I saw one major league player choke up on the bat. I mean, think about it. Look at it sometime. These guys got that bat down the end. And I could just tell myself, I hit some of the hardest hit balls I ever hit in my life, including home runs, choking a bat up. But you're not going to see it anymore.
You know, I myself, not having been a major league ball player like you, but as a kid, I never swung right. If you've choken up, you've got the rest of the bat getting in the way. Anyway, but evidently I'm wrong because...
You're not wrong. Everybody's got a different way of doing it, you know. But
well, what were the circumstances that you choked up when you had some of the hardest balls?
Because when you're playing every day, your body doesn't feel the same way. There's days when you don't feel strong. You know, you don't feel strong every day you go to the plate when you're playing ball. And I could feel it. No, every other player feels it. And that's the reason that I choked up. I choke up all the time. But when I felt tired, you know, I choked up on a bat quite a bit. And it paid off. So.
I know that you gave a lot of thought before we did this about the changes in the game. What other? Not long ago, you and I were talking, and I said the way they're breaking these curveballs off in the dirt, sometimes way in front of the plate, and these guys still strike out on them. They swing at these things. That never happened before. At least not in these 50 years that I've been watching and covering, actually, for 50 years. But let's talk about that. What are your thoughts? They break off these curveballs in the dirt, and these guys swing at them. Is it because they go up there? Do they make up their mind? I'm going to swing, and they can't stop themselves. Encarnacion will so all of these, like for example, take this Indians team, and all these guys are hitting line drives. And then Encarnacion comes up with that big, long swing of his. There's about a foot and a half outside. He waves at it. But he winds up being a heck of a productive hitter. But what are your thoughts?
Some guys are guess hitters, and other ones are just looking for certain pitches. Mm-hmm. And what you can't see on TV is you can't see. The good pitchers know how to change speeds, but you can't tell it on TV. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's those are the good pitchers. They change speed. If you throw a pitcher and you can throw as hard as you can every pitch, you're going to get nailed by the hitters. They're going to catch up with it. But sometimes you see these guys swing and miss on TV. And so, how could you miss that ball? That ball's right over the plate. But they don't know the speed.
I see.
The good pitchers change speeds, but you can't see it on TV.
Yes.
And so that's my thought on that.
Okay. A lot of these pitchers now seem to have so many different pitches. Kluber, for example. My God, he has them going, breaking left, breaking right. I don't know how he does it.
Well, I think now they really study the hitters, because the years that I was playing, the left fielder would be in one spot all the time. The center fielder would be in one spot all the time. Right fielder would be in one spot all the time. But now you're seeing the players in the outfield, particularly the Indians, change areas where they're, like there's certain players that, they'll move to the right because of them. The guy's going to hit it to right
They
field.
use dramatic shifts.
Correct.
Defensive alignment's dramatic now.
Correct.
You're right. You never saw that.
Never saw that.
Although
40, 50
Lou
years ago.
Boudreau did invent the shift against Ted Williams,
Right.
and that was
The Williams
that
shift.
was, yes, the Williams shift, and that was revolutionary at the time. Now it's just automatic.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things like I wrote some of the things down
good.
here that you're not going to see anymore. In baseball, you're not going to see an appeal play anymore.
Oh, leaving the base too soon?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because
they don't leave the base too soon?
I don't really know, Danny.
But you're right, you never see it.
No, you never see it. I don't think I ever saw a player in the last 7-8 years pitch more than 9 innings. In fact, most of them now at 5 innings, they're out of there. They got the guys in the bullpen. So there's a change right there.
And by comparison, back in look at the great Indians pitching staffs in the 50s. Why, as a staff, they'd have over 100 complete games.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other big change, I think, is how they changed the strike zone. The strike zone used to be letters down to the knees. Well, you know what it is now?
Yes.
Huh?
It's right. It's from the belly button to the knees,
Exactly.
essentially.
Yeah. That's a big change. Pitchers.
Was that gradual?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was gradual or not, whether it happened. I don't know when it came to be.
Yeah.
But that's a big difference from what it used to be. It used to be chest high, strike
Yeah.
up here. I had all kinds of things written down about then and now. But that's about it. That I had
Well,
down there.
no, okay. Back then, pitchers had to be workhorses because
Exactly.
usually you had a 4-man rotation.
Yeah.
Now it's a 5-man rotation.
Yeah. I wrote down here, it was a game in Minnesota. Remember Bert Blyleven?
Yes.
Huh? Pitched 14 innings
Wow.
in a game. And he didn't get hurt.
Uh-huh.
got stronger. But now I don't know if I understand the reasoning behind 5 pitchers or six innings, 5 innings or 6 innings, and you're out of there. And the players now, they think did a heck of a job
Yes.
going 5 innings.
1958, in May, Harvey Haddix pitched a 12-inning perfect game.
Right.
And he was not a big guy. Remember Harvey? He was
Yeah.
sort of a scrawny
Harvey
guy.
Haddix, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
He was a wonderful guy. He was our pitching coach for a year or so.
He was?
Yes. back in 78, I believe,
I didn't know
78,
that.
when Jeff Torborg was the manager.
Okay.
Harvey was the pitching coach, and he was an absolute delight. He loved talking about that perfect game that he threw, which he lost, by the way. He was in the 12th inning, or was it in the 13th? He had a perfect game, and finally he walked a guy, and then he gave up a home run. But they were so jubilant that somebody passed each other on the bases, and so it only counted as a triple or something. But anyway, he got beat 2-0.
Yeah.
A perfect game and through 12
I
innings.
remember that. I remember
Yes.
that happened.
Oh,
But the biggest thing that I still don't understand it with this bunt situation.
yeah, so.
If you watch the games now, these players are all back in the infield. So somebody lays a bunt down on him, that player's going to move up. Particularly the third baseman or the first baseman.
Yes.
And I don't see why more players don't do it. I just don't. Because, you're talking about a 6-month period of time where you're going to get, 400 at-bats or 500 at-bats. Why not let the other player know that, hey, I can lay down a bunt once in a while? Because those infielders, they'll never forget it.
Really.
And they're gonna change. Nobody wants to bunt laying down on it.
I
I don't understand why it's not done more.
As a third baseman, you could remember every guy who
Oh,
ever
yeah.
laid down a bunt on you.
No question. I
Well-
knew every player that laid a bunt down.
Really.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
of course, there are the obvious situations, the sacrifice. But you're talking about bunting for a base hit.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna shake the infield up when you can bunt like that.
Some of these guys can't even lay down a sacrifice bunt.
Correct.
Believe it. I've noticed that about the best at laying down a sacrifice bunt is the catcher Perez. Roberto Perez, is he?
Yeah.
The catcher, right? The alternate catcher. He can lay down a sacrifice bunt.
Right.
And of course, when you're the ninth hitter in the order hitting 199, you better be able to lay down a sacrifice bunt, and he does.
You bring up the catchers. I don't know how to explain this to me, but these catchers, particularly the two the Indians have, are like awesome behind that plate. Very seldom you're ever going to see a ball get by them.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it with all the balls that come in the dirt.
Yes.
And the way they handle it. You see very a few fast balls anymore, but these catchers are awesome.
Yes. Yeah, our guys are really good at that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
we got a great team. We really do.
But now that's another thing. When back in the old days, your days, you break off a ball in the dirt like that, and the catchers couldn't handle them. That's why it was really a big thing when, he broke off a ball in the dirt and runners move up. That didn't happen that often.
No, it didn't. Exactly right.
The curveball was supposed to break across the plate, and the catcher caught it.
I don't see how these catchers now, where ball hits maybe two foot in front of them,
Yes.
how the ball always ends up in their mitt.
Yes.
Think about it. You're talking about boom, boom.
Yes.
And so, but they know how to handle it. So,
As the game has changed, with the exception now, we had that wild and crazy era back in the 90s. There's so many guys on steroids hitting the ball out of the park.
Oh.
Mark McGuire bounced one off the Budweiser sign at our ballpark at the old Jacobs Field, halfway up the scoreboard. Why, we never saw anything like it, and may never again. Now that everybody in the world isn't on steroids today, but as the game has evolved now, who has the advantage, pitchers or over the old days? Who are pitchers or hitters?
well, I think the pitchers do.
Do they?
Yeah, I do.
Well, because the strike zone is so small. Yes.
Yeah.
How can a guy like Altuve and people like that hit 350? I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
No, I don't either.
We went through a period of time over our lifetimes when first of all the mound was low, was higher, and boy, you get those flamethrowers thrown down from that mound. That was tough to
They
catch
did
up.
change the height.
Then they lowered it, right?
I don't remember what year that was, but
Well, after 68, the league batting average must have been like under 230, and they realized something had to be done.
I think the biggest change they made now, though, was where they shortened the strike zone. You know, down from the shoulders.
Yes.
Down.
Yes.
I think that was the biggest change.
Now we get to then the strikeouts. Hey, it's no shame in striking out today.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't. And so many guys, last year or the year before, the Indians had 6 or 7 guys in their daily lineup who struck out over 100 times. And now the Indians as a staff, they are averaging 10 strikeouts per 9-inning games.
Is that what it is?
Yes, it's now 10 strikeouts.
That's
They're
a lot of
averaging that per
strikeouts.
game. Yes, it is.
That's an awful lot of strikeouts. But that's the way it is now. I mean, they're going for the home run, and nobody's saying don't do it. Just keep doing it. And it's not just the Indians are doing it; it's all the teams are doing it. But
Okay, back when you were playing, who were what kind of camaraderie did you have on your team? Who were your best friends?
Well, everybody
game
had
of
roommates. I don't know if they have roommates anymore.
Probably.
But Bernie Allen was my roommate.
Yeah.
Dean Chance was my roommate,
Oh, I feel sorry.
but I
for
never
you.
saw him.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I hope he doesn't listen to this. But
He died. He died about a year ago.
But they came up to me, Howard Fox, the traveling secretary, said, "Rich, you got to do us a favor." I said, "Well, what do you need, Howard?" And he says, "We need you to room with Dean." You know.
I remember Howard Fox. He was a nice guy. Wasn't he, the bad traveling secretary?
Yeah, that was like him. Living with the Pope.
Really?
You know. But I never saw him.
You never
They
saw
put him with
Dean.
me.
I'm not saying Dean was the nice guy. I'm saying Howard Fox was your traveling secretary.
Yeah.
Was the good guy.
Yeah, yeah. But
Dean would get on the phone with me. Dean got into boxing, and among
Right.
other things, I was the boxing writer at the Plain Dealer back in those old days. And Dean had picked up. He was now managing a couple of fighters.
right, exactly.
Why? What? Anyway. So now he would call me late at night and say, I got whoever it was. Yeah, Buck, he's going to have him fight in Buffalo against somebody. Or it was one night, he's out in Los Angeles. He gets me on the phone and he says, here, I wanted you to talk to the great war hero who became the movie actor. Oh, what was his name? Oh, yeah. Catherine might know. I don't know if Catherine even remembers him. Yeah, he was like Medal of Honor winner and became a movie actor. So he said, hey, talk to this. So what? What am I going to say? He wakes me up at 2 o'clock in the morning to say hello to this guy. Now, Dean never drank.
No, we never did.
Never drank.
That's exactly right.
Which is, however, he then hooked up with the Angels
Right.
earlier in his career with Bo Belinsky.
Correct.
Bo drank. And one time later on, they're both out of the game now, Bo Belinsky and Dean. They're here in Cleveland staying at the Holland Inn Hotel. And Dean had a couple fighters on a card that the promoter Don Elbaum was putting on. And so I come over to talk to them about this fighter they've got. And I walk into this hotel room in the Holland Inn Hotel. And here is Dean. Here is Dean. Dean, fine. He's flirting around on the phone, busy, always on the phone and always moving. Bo is stretched out on the bed. Well, a half-finished bottle of vodka on the nightstand right next to him. I mean, these two were so They were equally crazy, but otherwise so unlike.
I know. I wish I could remember some other Dean Chance story.
Gee.
But he was a very humble guy.
Was he, Dean?
Yeah,
Was?
I think he was the kind of a guy who was always usually take a bus from the hotel.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be. We're going to take time out for just a second here. No, but we can keep going as we'll see how Rich. How can he dig that phone out of his pocket? And is the call for me? Is that for me?
Slim, I'm right in the middle of this. Whatchamacallit, Danny Coughlin.
Can he call you back?
I need to call you right back. See, he said to say hi.
Okay. Wait,
I will.
Okay.
I will. I love you. Okay.
Thanks for tuning
Bye.
in, everybody, into the personal life of
Lynn, what's your
Rich
address?
Rollins. Was that Lynn?
Yeah.
Your wife, Lynn?
Yeah. Yes, what's your address?
I always tell Maddie,
Where did I just?
when I do this, I say, don't call me when I'm working down here.
I don't think she knew that we were doing this.
I know
now,
she
but
didn't.
The phone.
They never know
rang.
when we're.
What were we talking?
Where we were Dean Chance and
Oh,
Dean and Bo Belinsky and Dean.
he was always the last guy to come into the locker room in the
He
morning.
was?
When we had a game,
Uh-huh.
everybody's there dressed. Everybody,
Right, yeah.
here comes Dean. It just never. And then all of a sudden, he would disappear. But he never hung around with any of the guys.
Didn't he?
No. He was by himself. I mean,
Really?
he was, whatever he did, that was it. You'd see him the next day. But he was a good person. He'd give you the shirt off his back if he had to. But he was a little bit different.
Yes, he was.
Plus,
I
he
know.
could pitch.
Oh, yes. This is about you, but we stray off into some of the guys you played ball with. Later on, Dean grew up on a farm down outside Worcester
Correct.
in Wayne County.
Yeah.
And he wanted to join the Elks Club there to play cards. Now, all the guys in Worcester in that area, they knew Dean. And so there's the vote. His name has been nominated for membership in the Elks Club. And here they had about, if you vote for him, there's a red ball, and there's and vote against him, a black ball, but there's only 2 or 3 black balls in it. Nobody ever did. So anyway, they're having the vote for Dean Chance coming into the Elks Club. And the third guy up there says, "Hey, where are the black balls? Where are the black balls?" 3 guys.
Well, you bring me to the thought now. Remember the booth that he used to have at all these carnivals?
Dean had a booth?
Oh yeah.
No.
He used to sell teddy bears.
Really? No.
Yeah, he had teddy bears. Like out at the Berea Fairgrounds and all
Sure,
that
yeah.
stuff around, area. Yeah.
Well, was it a little game that you would win teddy bears, or did you just buy them?
He had to throw these things that.
I see. Yeah. Break a balloon with a dart or
Yeah,
something.
little things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, but he sold teddy bears.
So he traveled the county fair circuit. Oh, gee. Oh boy. So you really, when you're traveling with a guy, living with a guy for 6-7 months a year, 8 months, I guess that you get to know them pretty good. But Dean, there was a mysterious side to Dean.
Well, like I mentioned before, they wanted me to room
To room with them.
to room with them,
Uh-huh.
and I said, "Sure, fine."
Mm-hmm.
But I never saw him. I never saw him. I don't know what he did or where he went or what he and this is a lengthy period of time. And they asked me, "Well, how's Dean? How's Fox? How you and Dean getting along?" "We're getting along fine." I would never turn him in. Yeah, I'm getting Howard would come up to me and says, "How's Dean doing?" "He's doing fine, Howard."
Oh, how they.
I wished I had some of this stuff that happened
Gee.
on tape.
Gee.
I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think of some of this stuff, and it's just like it never ends. I mean,
Really?
it just never ends.
And you
spend
only-
half the time laughing.
And then, of course, some of the other guys, Harmon Killebrew, one of the greatest sluggers of all time in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Harmon, he died young. What was that about his entire, if that ran in his family?
Yeah.
Harmon Killebrew, what was that story?
That was just the way it was. I mean,
Everybody, he was,
I don't know if he had I think he had a brother.
but no males in his family lived beyond 50 or something?
No.
Wow. How would this come up in conversation with him? He had to,
It never came from him.
oh,
Like one of his really good friends was Bob Allison.
oh yeah.
You know, but no, it didn't come from Harmon. It came from other people that.
But they would say that, yeah.
Like he was really close with Bob Allison,
Was he?
and I think it was Allison that told people what he's dealing with.
So he knew.
But we never said anything
yeah.
to him.
But so he knew that the genetics in his family meant that no male would live beyond the age of 50.
Right. Yeah.
Gee. How old was Harmon when he died? Do you remember?
I do not know.
But he was a nice guy.
Class act. I mean, he'd do anything for you. He's like one of the guys. He wasn't the type of person that wanted everybody to know, yeah, I'm Harmon. He'd do anything for the kids, sign autographs. Yeah. He'd sign autographs all day.
Really?
Just a nice person.
Yes.
And yeah, it was a big loss. I mean, he was probably the head honcho of the whole team.
Was he?
Yeah. He called a few meetings when he thought that we need to talk a little bit. I remember one in Baltimore.
Really?
We had the whole team in a hotel room.
Really?
Yeah, Harmon set it up.
Really?
We were on a losing streak, or things weren't going well, or whatever. So,
Well, back then you guys were pretty serious about baseball because you went to the World Series in 1965. You were in the hunt most of those years. So yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota was a good place to play baseball. I mean, it was a bunch of good people, and I was lucky to be drafted by them. I mean, it was a real experience.
Well, you weren't exactly drafted by them. They chose you and you signed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was a trip, Dan.
Oh. And it was a trip you would do again, wouldn't you?
I often think about it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not too many people get the chance that I had.
10 years in the major leagues.
Yeah.
You got a pension. Are you living on your pension now?
Yeah. And it's, it's a real good one. I mean, it was not only that, but what my compensation, when something happens to me, my wife would be taken care of also.
Really?
So, they didn't, it was really, really a good one. So I lucked out, Danny.
Yes, you did. But you didn't squander it.
No.
You're a great success story. What did you do after your playing days? I know that you worked for the Cavs for a while, didn't you?
I worked in the Indians front office.
Oh, Indians front office. Okay.
Yeah. And a big mistake that I probably made was, I'm not going to mention any names, a certain gentleman at the time offered me a whole lot of money to go to work for him, which was a big mistake that I made.
Somebody in sports?
Yeah.
The name Ted Stepien comes to mind. I don't know
if
that's... Okay. Oh.
But if I had it over again, I would not have done that.
Yeah.
It got me out of baseball. That's just what it did.
And that's too bad.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to leave the Cleveland Plain Dealer after 18 happy years and go to the Cleveland Press.
Did you?
And they went out of business 3 months later.
You did it?
Yes. That's why I wound up in television. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it happened so fast, if your back was turned, you missed it. Yes. Back in 1982. They offered the same thing.
Yeah, And then I ended up with the Cavaliers for probably 8-9 years.
Oh, you
also,
did?
When they
Okay.
first were out to the arena,
Oh,
out in the boondocks.
out to Richfield, okay.
Richfield, yeah.
Yes. But we've also seen this market change, Rich, in the time when you came out of Kent State and started your baseball career till now. We've seen the metropolitan area of Cleveland change a lot. People question whether we can support 3 major league teams. There was a time when we were supporting 3 major league teams. We were also trying to support a hockey team plus a pro soccer team. We've tried a lot of things in this town.
You know, you bring up a good point because the travels that I been all over the place.
Yes.
I hear very, very few people bring up the fact about what we call the Emerald Necklace. I mean, it's something that where we have this park system,
The Metropolitan
that
Park.
surrounds the entire city of Cleveland,
Yes.
that I never hear people talk about.
Oh.
Even I don't know of any other place in the country that has what we have here, the metropolitan parks. So Cleveland's a great place to.
I tend to
be.
take it for granted myself. I think that many of us do. We take it for granted. I grew up
Right.
playing down in the valley, Rocky River. That's why others in the Chagrin Reservation and place. We take it for granted. It was just part of growing up. Doesn't everybody have this? Yeah, but they don't.
No, they don't. And what they've done to the downtown area is unbelievable. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. I was lucky enough to be, to about every major city in the country,
Yes.
and visit the place. My wife loves it here also.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and
we lucked out.
back when I was the traveling baseball writer for the Plain Dealer back in the late 70s, I was at every city. And some of them, we'd get out of the ballpark at, 11 o'clock at night. Baseball game would finish. I'd write my stories. Then I'd go out, and now I'm hungry and thirsty. In a lot of places like Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Kansas City, where can I go for a beer and a burger? It was hard.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. When you were talking before about what you should not have done,
Yeah.
what was that all about?
Oh, that was, we were, Maddie and I were having a bunch of babies, and we needed a bigger house. The Cleveland Press called. They tried to lure me away from the Plain Dealer, wanted me to be their sports columnist. Bob August had pretty much retired and was writing about senior citizens by then. I mean, he's really, seriously. And so they offered me a big raise pay, a signing bonus. So finally, after a year of this, I asked the Plain Dealer for, just $50 a week raise, and they couldn't afford it. And so I had to take the Press's offer. 3 months later, the Plain Dealer bought the Press and shut them down. And
What year was that, Dad?
1982, spring of '82.
Wow.
And you were already working in the Indians front office, and now I'm on the street looking for a job, and Channel 8 rescued me. Spent over 30 years there now. Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
So anyway, but I always missed being a daily newspaper man.
That was your favorite.
Yes.
The newspaper.
Yeah, but now that this is about you.
I remember reading your columns and all that. Yeah, I didn't know you then, though.
Well, I'll tell you, we got. I remember you. Our paths crossed briefly when you wound up playing for the Indians at the end of your career, and of course, you wouldn't remember me, but I remember you, of course.
Oh, I remember you.
And then I remember you one time you owned property out and you had a huge backyard like a farm. Didn't you have a big summer party out there one time?
Oh, yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, you were?
Yes.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, we sold that place.
Yeah, did you?
And we live in Akron now, just
Yes.
outside of, not very far down the road.
Okay, now at your age, 79, next spring you'll turn 80. And do you still stay in touch with any of your old baseball people?
Yeah.
Do you?
Gary Roggenberg, Joe Nossick.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see quite a
Yes,
bit. Quite
yes.
a few times. Bernie Allen.
Where does Bernie live?
In Indianapolis,
really?
just outside of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah, and I run across guys. I get phone calls from here and there, but
Really?
since I hurt my legs, I really haven't done that much traveling.
Uh-huh.
Or I had a difficult time walking.
Do you?
But that happens, I guess, with old age. At least that's what my doctor says.
Did you ever have knee operations? Any baseball
That's 3 of
injuries
them.
from that? Did you really?
Yeah. Mayo Clinic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scars
But I've been a
on-
lucky person. I mean, way things worked out. Kids, I've got 6 kids, 13 grandkids,
Oh, nice.
and so it's been good. It's been nice,
Okay.
nice being with you here. You put me at ease.
You know, at our age, and people tuning in here should be reminded, when you get to be our age, you got to stay in touch with each other.
That's exactly right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Rich, thanks for spending a day with me here.
I love it. I really appreciate you asking me down here. You are what's called a class act.
Well, you're very nice. But people will, I enjoy talking baseball with you and listening, because you had such great experiences. One last thing, let's go back to that 65 World Series
Okay.
against Drysdale and Koufax. Not a bad pitching staff in those days. Talking about averaging 10 strikeouts for a 9-inning game, those guys did. How did you do against those guys? You were a right-handed hitter, right? And Koufax threw left-handed. Heck, you should have chewed him up.
Well, Drysdale was the one you mentioned, right?
Drysdale and Koufax.
Well, the two significant differences was Drysdale was around the side,
Oh,
okay? And the other guys over the top. That was tough.
oh,
Any pitcher that threw over the top, you didn't have an angle.
oh.
I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but those two guys were way and above most pitchers that I ever faced.
But you say over the top was harder to hit against? Drysdale was from
me,
the
it
side?
was.
Oh,
Yeah. Drysdale was more to the side.
yeah. Sort of, but not as extreme as Joe Smith.
Yeah, you don't get an angle. You don't get an angle
Really?
somebody over the top.
You don't get an angle.
No. I don't think, anyways.
Okay. Did you came close to being that was 1965. You came close again in 67. That was the 4-team race that came down in the final week.
Yeah.
You, Boston Red Sox, White Sox, and was it the Tigers? Or who else was in there?
May have been the Tigers. The Tigers had a good
Well,
team.
it was 67. It was Boston, Chicago, Minnesota, maybe the Tigers, yes. Boston winds up winning.
But we had some really pretty good teams up in Minnesota.
yes.
The years that I was up there.
Yes.
Really good teams. So
Okay. Well, Rich Rollins, it's been a delight to spend the day with you.
my pleasure, Danny.
Okay, Rich, we'll get together again now. And it's too bad that everybody tuning in here on the library's Sports Research Center can't spend time personally with you, because you're a delight to be around. Thanks for everybody for calling in.
I wish I could.
Oh, he's not finished.
I wish my memory was better. I could tell you a lot more stories.
You should have made notes. Goodbye, everybody.